Welcome to the No Agendas podcast once again on a Monday evening, where we literally contradict the title of the podcast from the very first minute to the very last minute. Although there is always some context coming in, there's always going to be controversy and there's always going to be disagreements because we're an emotional fan base. It just is what it is. I've got Elzo. Big up Elzo, man. Wagwan. Elzo seems to have the biggest fan base on this show at the moment. So all the Elzo fans will be happy to see Elzo back in the show. We've got Johnny yawning because we've had to wake Johnny up from his slumber. We've had to wake him up from his sleep. So
even everyone.
Johnny is half asleep as he can. Johnny, all right, fucking hell, pretend like you're enjoying this a little bit.
Can't question my commitment.
You know what I mean? Jesus Christ, pretend like you're enjoying it a little bit. And we've got Brian, who's just joined us. Brian, perfect timing. I'm just bringing everyone into the show. Brian is a regular as usual. No Agendas podcast. We have agendas from minute one to the very last minute of the show. Guys, welcome to everyone. Is everyone doing all right?
Yeah, good. Well, yeah, better to go when I was asleep.
Yeah. I think I'd just like to point out to everyone that I think Johnny's going to be complaining about his lack of sleep for the rest of the show. So just get used to it. Just be prepared for it. It is what it is.
I'll be as chatty as usual because I've not been awake. I've been awake like 10 minutes. I've had no coffee, man. I need coffee.
That's all right, Johnny. That's all right. We'll accommodate your limited performance. It's fine. I mean, we're Manchester United fans. We're used to seeing limited performances all the time, innit? Do you know what I mean? It is what it is. We're going to dive straight in, guys. We're going to have Neji join us as well in a bit, but he's not here yet. So Neji is going to join us in a bit. But we're going to start straight in. First topic, as you can see, Mount and Bruno playing in our midfield. How that's going to be set up, we're yet to see. Some people are suggesting that it's going to be, two number 8s almost, and then kind of they will be swapping the number 10 position. Some people are suggesting that Mount's going to sit deeper with Casemiro and only kind of go up as and when he needs to go up. I don't know how you guys see that combination, but I think the most important thing is GA potential. How do you guys see that combination improving our team going forward? I'm going to start with you, Elzo. Let's go.
Yeah, I think, like you said, probably the 2-8s swapping rotation. We know Ten Hag likes players to move around the pitch, go in the gaps. So yeah, I'm kind of excited to see them two play because I think what I learned, people speak on him and what I've seen, he lacks a number of 10s, a number of runners. So those two are players that can do that. How they do it, I don't know. If they take turns, I don't know, but it'll be good to see. It'll be good to see. Yeah. GA, I can't say.
You know what? For me, Elzo, I don't even, because I'm not interested in sort of the numbers, but I'm very interested in people's expectations. So, like, when you look at them, are you thinking, I could see, I could picture a game from last season where I think we probably would have scored another goal if these two were playing together in that match. You know what I mean? Do you see a general improvement in the output attacking wise because they're playing together than, without having Mount?
I think I can see it, but it's hard to say. We just got to wait and see, to be honest. It's hard to say, but thinking about it, it's going to be attacking. It's going to be dynamic, interchanging. It's going to be good to see. It's going to be good to see. But will it work how we want it to work? We don't know yet. But it's going to be interesting, man.
So on your just to ask you a more direct question, would you play Bruno in the deeper role with Casemiro and have Mount playing a bit more advanced, or would you play Mount a bit more advanced and Bruno or the other way around? So would you rather have Bruno deep, or would you rather have Mount deep? Because a lot of people have said when Bruno's played deep, we've controlled the games better. And this has been the general consensus
last season. some of his better games came there. So it's going to be interesting to see because there's different ways that we can do it. But this coach, we don't know yet. We don't know yet. But Bruno has played that role last season and he done it very good. So that is one way that we might see it.
Cool. Johnny, I'm going to come to you next. What's your expectation?
I'll be honest, mate. I think it stinks at midfield. Bruno and Mount in the same midfield. Just it's a nightmare for me. I don't rate Bruno as it is, you know that. And I don't rate Mount. I'm not going to pretend that I rate him just because he's.
Oh, really? You don't like Bruno? I would have never known that. I would have never guessed that.
I think Mount brings more energy, definitely. But I don't think it's upgraded as midfield. Personally, I don't. At the end of the day, I am going to give it. I'm going to give I'm trying to put my personal preference aside. I just sort of try and trust the manager's vision, even though I don't quite see it with Mount and Bruno and Casemiro. But I'm just going to try and trust his vision and give it a chance and sort of reserve my judgment, even though I'm sounding judgmental now because you're asking for my opinion. But I'm just going to let's see how it goes this season and just see if Mount can find, I mean, I've never rated Mount, but I think every player that joins your club deserves a fair chance to prove you wrong.
So when you look at Mount, you don't think he improves our team in any way, shape, or form?
I think it gives us more energy. Like he's definitely going to cover more ground that Eriksen couldn't cover. But in terms of on the ball, like Eriksen's good on the ball, and I think Eriksen's probably better on the ball than Mount in some ways. But like pinging balls and what have you. But I don't know. Look, for me, I'm never going to be happy with our midfield until Bruno's out for me. Like he's my kryptonite. I can't stand him as a player. I just can't stand him. But end of the day, we'll see how it works this season. The manager's got a job to do. He's got to get results. And hopefully Mount can. Hopefully he's come with a bit of a chip on his shoulder to sort of show Chelsea that you should have valued me more. And you should have recognised what I brought to the team in terms of as a player and as his mentality. Again, I'm hyping up a little bit here because I'm looking at it from his perspective, not my perspective. I imagine Mount wants to prove to everyone, I'm worthy of this contract. This is what you should have given me. That Man United saw the value in me. So I'm generally going to give Mount a really good chance, and hopefully he proves me wrong. I want him to prove me wrong in the day. I want every player to prove me wrong, but we'll see. But I just feel like I just don't think it's anywhere close to what Man City's midfield is, or even Arsenal's midfield. I feel like our midfield just needs strengthening it all around. But I suppose that's one piece. He's got Antony now. He's got Martinez, and he's got Mount. They're three players that the manager wanted himself. He wanted them three players. So, like, if you say he's got an 11-piece jigsaw to fill, he's got three of his pieces now, and he needs more pieces for his system. And that's what I'm trying to keep in mind. His system, not my preference, but his system. So if them pieces help bring his system to life, then obviously that you would think that'll lead to more winning matches and getting further.
Do you think he will? Because obviously it's the same question that I was asking Elza to say when you look at Bruno and Mount in terms of how they're gonna interchange. Because I'm assuming they'll probably play different roles in different games depending on who we face. So do you see Ten Hag allowing them to interchange who goes up, who stays, who stays, who goes?
I don't know, Jimmy, because like I'm not a connoisseur, if you will, of Ten Hag football. I'm not going to pretend I am. I'm not like T or even.
No,
Daniel.
but just from what you've seen from the last season, how would you see him deploying that midfield specifically for Bruno and Mount?
I honestly don't know because like it rotates them all the time, doesn't it? It does a lot of rotation, so I imagine he's not going to suddenly change his sort of train of thought now and keep everyone rigid. Is that the whole point of Ten Hag is to create overloads and get the ball into the final third as quickly as possible. And I don't see him changing that. But in terms of like positional rotation and what have you, that's kind of above my pay grade. I'm not going to pretend I know what I'm talking about there because I don't.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just because for me when I've watched the way that the midfield was deployed last season, obviously a lot of people have agreed with Ten Hag when he's played Bruno in the deeper role because he seems to be more.
Yeah, just on that quick point, like Bruno deeper, he played well, but he had no when Bruno's got no pressure on him, Bruno will play well. When Bruno's under pressure, it's shocking. Like when he put him under pressure, he's shocking. Under no pressure, he's a very good player, and he will hurt you. But put him under pressure, man, he's shit.
But do you know what? That's a summary of exactly what I was asking. So that's perfect. Would you say Mount is a out of 10 signing? What would you rate him? 5, 6 for you, Johnny?
Just average, because I didn't rate him before, so I'm not going to say like he has to prove me wrong, Jimmy. So it's just flat 5 out of 10, just average. Okay,
fair enough. Brian, I'm going to come to you next. Welcome, my brother. Good to see you.
Hey.
So Bruno and Mount, think of them together. I'm trying to understand how you feel about watching them two play and how you think Ten Hag might deploy the midfield with them two in it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. So this is the way that my head works around this. What I don't expect with Mason Mount in the team is for our team to suddenly get significantly better at controlling games, like just in terms of possession, keeping the ball, right?
Yeah.
While Mason Mount does like to play a lot of short passes, I do think that he excels when he tries to stretch the play. But what I do think is that between Casemiro, Mount, and Bruno, between those three, they will try to play those kind of low percentage passes. All three of those players will try to do those things. I think where United will excel is when Ten Hag, when we build up play the right way and get the ball into the final third as quickly as possible, in the event that play breaks down and we turn that ball over, and the majority of teams, their first out ball will be to their deepest midfielder. Mount's going to be on that guy. He's going to be on that midfielder. He's going to snap the ball off of him, and we're going to create a chance from there. 1-2 passes in, and a chance is created. And I think that those are the positions where Bruno Fernandes excels. Right.
Are you saying? Do you see Mount accepting, maybe in some games, accepting the role of being the what you might almost call a press trigger? So do you see him being taking responsibilities for how we start defending as a team? Because like Elza was saying, energy. Johnny said the same thing. Use the word energy. Do you see him as being part of that trigger point where, right, this is where we're going to start pressing teams? This is he determines where we sort of, because people are angry with Bruno a lot of the times because they think Bruno's a bit erratic, so he's not organized in how he triggers the press. So do you see him as a bit more controlled, a bit more measured trigger to that press that we might want to press for next season?
I'll keep it 100 with you, Jimmy. I think that Mount's just better at it than Bruno. I'll be complete. I think he's just better at it than Bruno. I think when Bruno and Eriksen interchange positions, Eriksen doesn't have the engine that Bruno does. Mount does. And so I think that when those players shift and move around as we're building up play, I think that the energy levels that we'll see from both those players, I mean, Bruno Fernandes he played the most minute. He ran the longest distances this season. He has an engine in him, and I think that we're going to get something similar to that in Mason Mount, but he's not just an engine. I do think that Mount will help us win the ball back higher up the pitch. And I also think that Mount will also not just trigger presses, but when he picks that ball up, he will drive the team forward. He's confident with the ball at his feet. He'll drive the team forward. And I think that benefits everybody in front of him.
Of course. As a final closing question to you before I move on to Neji and BJ. So welcome, big up, guys. Welcome to the show. Thanks very much for joining us. Really appreciate you guys. Just as a final question to you, Brian, do you, when you look at the two players, do you see Bruno playing more advanced, or do you see Bruno playing deeper, where people are saying that he's a bit more controlled in that position? So it might be a good opportunity to allow Mount and kind of release Mount out to start every element of our attacks. Because a lot of people do prefer Bruno deep and not more advanced, because I think his risk taking might be a little bit too risky sometimes. So people prefer him being a little bit deeper, where he's got the chance to make a mistake and it doesn't cost us a goal. How do you see the dynamic between the two for you?
I honestly would like to see Mount. I would honestly be okay with seeing Mount play a little bit deeper. I don't mind that. Like I think that one of the misconceptions about Bruno is that he plays those low percentage passes all the time, but actually the amount of those types of passes that he's played have gone down over the last 3 seasons. So as a player, he has been maturing in his ability to read games better and read situations better. That doesn't make him any less of an erratic. That doesn't make him any less of an erratic player. But what it does mean is that Bruno Fernandes isn't just playing the ball every time he has the opportunity. Like sometimes he's making conscious decisions to not do it as much. So I do think that Bruno playing further forward, that's where he excels. That's where we want Bruno. We want chance creation Bruno. I don't want Bruno keeping play ticking. I want Bruno creating chances for our most dangerous players in attack. That's what that's where I want to see him. And if Mount can help him do that, be the best version of himself, where he doesn't have to do jobs that he's not specialized in, then I think that Mount is going to he's going to add so much to the team. I think he has a bit more tactical flexibility in my mind.
Fair points. Appreciate that. Neji, I'm going to come to you next. Bruno and Mount, the combination of the two, how do you feel about it? How do you see it? What do you think is going to happen?
Cool, man. Firstly, thank you for having me. Appreciate the invite to come feature. Share with the panel. Shout out to the people and the listeners as well. But yeah, man, I'm not Mount's biggest fan. And I think when I ask myself why, it's just because for me personally, he's not a wow player. He's not a wow player for me. And it doesn't mean he doesn't have attributes that are potential of wow, but he's just not wow for me. However, put my preference to one side. What I do appreciate about Mount is his ability off the ball. And having given a little bit of time and openness to watching him play, what I see of him off the ball, for me, I think that's where we're gonna get the most out of him. And I believe that will be based on his positional sense and his work rates to get into the right positions to then trigger. I think someone said trigger presses earlier, and I think I would agree with that. Another thing I do like about Mount, for me, is his ability on the ball, receiving balls. So as soon as the ball fizzed into him, his first touch in terms of being able to turn, locate space, his intelligence is actually quite underrated. Well, it's definitely something I underrated anyway, in terms of watching quite a few passages of his play and think, to be fair, it's quite a difficult skill or drop of the shoulder to do. So I'll give him more credit, given the fact that I've watched more of him and had to, because obviously as a United fan, I don't really watch Chelsea like that. However, he still doesn't wow me. And I think in regards to Bruno, I think only enhances him. I think I said about 2-3 seasons ago regarding Bruno, and I think Johnny may remember this in a couple of spaces where I said if you put Bruno in a system, you'll see less erraticness from him. I know that's the word that's been used, so I'll use it as you guys are using that as your buzzword. So you won't see as much erratic passes from him. You'll see a lot more calmer, simpler Bruno. And that's because there's a system there for him. He's not trying to do everybody's job. And I think under Ollie, that was the case. And I think moving forward, looking at what Ten Hag wants to do, he now has a role for Bruno. And Bruno can pick up many roles, as we know. Whether you like it or not, he can do that. And he's got the ability to. And again, like you said, he's got an engine. He's got an absolute engine. So if you're looking at the combination in terms of Bruno staying a lot higher, which I believe he will in transition, Mount winning the first ball or collecting the first ball off the defender, whether it's a Martinez, etc. on the turn, Bruno's then going to be in his danger areas more often, not having to do as much of the donkey work as what he used to do. And I think you're going to see a more efficient and effective Bruno. It doesn't mean he hasn't been effective at all. I believe he's been massively effective since he's come. And that's why I rate him so highly, one of our most effective players. But I think to get the tidiness from him, of course, every creator is going to have erratic moments. I mean, 2 seasons ago, Kevin De Bruyne was top of the list for the most passes given away. No one spoke about it, obviously, because he's in a team that won the ball back when he did. And that's normal. That's meant to happen. So I expect that from my creators. However, from a Man United standpoint, I would like to see him in a system. I would like to see him more suited to a role and have that one role and play every single game in that role. The reality of that for me is
Neji, does that almost make the decision for the manager then? Because if we know that he's capable of these mistakes, if you like, then you're better off putting him further forward, isn't it? Where if he makes a mistake, then we've got the chance to recover from those mistakes before it becomes dangerous, rather than having him deeper, where if he makes that mistake, then you haven't got that much chance of making a recovery so the situation will become dangerous. So does that make a decision for the manager in the sense that, well, if you put him further up front, you're reducing the risks of that mistake becoming a dangerous mistake?
I mean, sure, yeah, logic has it. Like, you know, if you're going to lose the ball higher up the pitch, you've got, you know, less chance to be on the threat. However, footballers don't stay in their static positions. And that's one thing to trigger in a free-flowing football game. You're not going to always have your 10 in a 10, maybe on the right, maybe on the left, because your team move left and right. So you're going to pick up different positions. Of course, your shape is important. And when the ball's in a certain area, then there'll be certain trigger points. So if you ever notice, if an attack happens and their goalkeeper picks up the ball, you'll start to see certain players move in certain areas before the ball's kicked if they can. And they put a lot of work in to get those first 10 yards in, right, to get in position. And those are the things that aren't really highlighted in football. So for me personally, I don't believe, of course, to your point, if he loses the ball later on, you know, further closer to our goal, of course, there's more risk. However, I'm not really focused on whether we lose the ball or not. I think it's part of the game. I think it needs to be accepted a little bit more. Although it's frustrating, of course, I'm not expecting perfection. You know, I'm just expecting intelligence and the right ideas. Because, like you can make a dodgy pass. I've done it myself as a fan. I've watched my team play and go, "Oh, why did you not play it down wide?" But then he's gone through the middle and we score from it or get a chance. So, do you know what I mean? Sometimes we can be a bit over analytical and over critical and just forget that they're playing a free flowing game. Yes, there may have been better options, but in that moment, instinctively, some things take over, and I give a little bit of leeway to that. It doesn't mean you can't be frustrated or vexed, but I don't go to the level to then hold it against the player because I expect that from players. And I think it comes down to the system. And just to answer your original question before we move on, I do believe Mount and Bruno would work well together based on their attributes of what I've now seen of Mount in more detail. But I think for me, I've just got to look at it and go, give it some time to blossom, because if Mount comes out of that team, and of course you've got Casemiro as well, we know that. But if Mount comes out of that team, he's gonna struggle when he's with Bruno and Casemiro to start with. But if he comes out of that team, he's got more of an opportunity to see how that midfield works. And I think it's something like, again, pre-season, you could probably ease him in through pre-season and give him that role. If you look at Casemiro's role, he ultimately plays box to box in most midfields against certain teams. He's that smart that he won't just be your colossal DM. He will genuinely sit back and man the back line. Then there'll be games where he's on the edge of the box 24/7 because he can read the game and what type of game it is. I don't think Mount is there yet, and he needs to be told what to do. Casemiro does that instinctively, which says a lot about Casemiro. And if he does start playing in a game where he's slightly higher up in a pitch, then of course Mount needs to get his orders right and ensure that he's sticking to a plan, because you don't want him to be in no man's land.
You know what's been what's been. I think that there's this is. I don't want to have this conversation now, but just to mention it. I mean, Shubs has made a point, and big up to everyone in the comments, by the way, and everyone watching. Like, we appreciate you guys. Like, big up. Shubs has mentioned a point about. He said, "What happens if we sign another midfielder? Do you still think it'd be 2 8s sitting with 2 8s with Casemiro sitting in the 6?" Now, I've said, there seems to be an assumption that Casemiro is automatically going to be the number 6 next season. You know, it's not automatic, is it? Because if we signed a younger 6, there's a chance that Casemiro might not start next season. So this is a whole nother conversation. But I think, alluding to the point you were making with what Shubs has just said, for you, who's the 8? Who's the 8 for you between Mount and Bruno? So if you can answer me that, give me a little bit of context, and then we'll move on to Ben after that.
Is that for me?
Yeah, that's for you. Yeah, that's for you.
Sorry, bro. For you moving on, my bad, people. Yeah.
That's for you.
I'll be honest. I think Mount will be the 8, in my opinion, and I think Bruno would play 8 as well. I just think Bruno would have more license to go forward because, again, he's naturally. But I think he's a much better clinical striker of a ball in and around that area. Doesn't mean Mount isn't, but I feel like when you're at the final end, I feel like you're going to take more risks when you're shooting, whether you're passing. Mount is very, very clean He's a clean player, so his creative chances, yes, they come off quite a lot of the time, but he's quite a safe footballer. Similar to Anthony, he retains the ball very well. He doesn't do anything over the top when delivering a pass, by the way. Of course, when he's on the ball, we know he does flicks and whatever. Yeah. However, I'm on about when he's delivering a ball into another player or stuff, he's very, very reserved. He will recycle the ball. Mount is very much like that on the edge of the area. But don't get me wrong, when he sniffs an opportunity, he will take that small risk to take out, go into a danger area and come through. So it depends, man. It depends what Ten Hag wants, but it's a beautiful problem to have. And that's, again, assuring that Mount does step up and fits in. If he doesn't, game over. But I will finish on this, on Mount, in the hope that I put more faith in Ten Hag than I do what I know of Mount. And what I'm hoping for is a similar situation to Jurgen Klopp and Jordan Henderson. For me, Jordan Henderson is a Lee Cattermole type of player or type of talent. But what he did with Jordan Henderson, he made him look better than what he was from his talent. And again, he's bred an incredible player, in my opinion. So I'm hoping he has some similar effect on Mount. So he actually looks like he's a key part of our team. And if he can do that, then that's his signing done very well.
Yeah. Great points, man. Great points. Appreciate that. Ben, welcome, my guy. This is the first time we've been on a podcast together.
Is this Football Thesaurus, Ben?
It is, yeah.
Oh, yes, it is.
Yeah. Ben, man. Big up.
What? Did you not know that? Did you?
That's the first time I've seen his face ever.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right. So just for the listeners, Ben is he's a real football scholar. He's got all the knowledge in the world about players that you would have never even heard of. And I don't know how he does it, to be honest, because he's in the military, he's regimented. He wakes up at 5 o'clock in the morning, has to shine his boots, has to iron his trousers. So I don't know how he gets time to watch all these players. Honestly, I really don't know.
I think when we were playing,
Ben, welcome to the show, my guy. Same question to you, Ben. Mount and Bruno, how do you see it? What are your expectations?
For me, for Mount, I think I see Mount as the facilitator, in the sense that you might not see specifically next season what his true outline on the team is. It might take a year, in that what Mount offers the team next season shows Ten Hag specifically the actual player that he needs to go and get because of what Mount offers. He isn't my cup of tea in the terms of the players that I grew up watching and that I would use as a reference point to him. But then,
why is that? What's missing from his profile that you think, he's not the type of player that I would have considered to come to my club?
Because for me, he's not what I would deem a central midfielder, and he's not the types of tens that I look to and like to see play when I was growing up. He's kind of that halfway house, which is never a bad, because those players that Fergie signed that were a halfway house, that once I saw what Fergie wanted from the footballer, you understood, actually, you know what? He's the perfect example of a collection of stars doesn't make a star team.
Yes. Yeah.
Because of that person. He is that person that when you put into the team and you allow those players that are deemed better than him to then go on that next extra gear, they wouldn't be able to do that if they didn't have what he offered the team from an attribute perspective. A bit like what Ji-Sung Park offered. Do you know what I mean? We didn't have a player like Ji-Sung Park until he arrived. Yeah. But when you watch Ji-Sung Park play with the players that were at the club at the time, he almost allowed them to even be more freer because of what he offered. Now, for Mount, for me, I've got nothing against the individual. You know, if it's what the manager wants, then I will back the manager, because he fundamentally knows more about him than me and knows more about the game. He isn't my preference from what I grew up on. But for me, I think we're at the point as a team where we need people that are more of a facilitator of the system than the person that's going to come in and enhance the system. Yeah. Because he could be that foundation that allows Ten Hag to actually see far more clearer what positions he actually might need to fill that he didn't necessarily think about last season because of what Mount offers him. And I think you've seen that in times with, if you look at when Bruno under Ollie to Bruno now under Ten Hag, you've seen that change in his attitude and mindset and his
big time
overall perception of what he's actually being asked to do. Whereas under Ollie, he kind of had the free rein, like he had at Sporting, where he kind of was basically a carte blanche to go and do what he wanted. Whereas Ten Hag sort of said, look, mate, I get what you offer, but at the minute you're being a rogue bullet. You to be that specific, precise bullet that when I ask you to do something, you're the one that allows it to hit the target.
But why do you think that Mount didn't play that well under Tuchel? Because Tuchel's a coach.
He is, but sometimes.
So why? Because for me the big thing I'm excited about the most about Mount is that I know when I watch him, I feel like he's the type of player that under a coach he should play well. I feel like Ten Hag's going to bring the best out of him. But then I go back and look at his Chelsea career under Tuchel, and I think, well, Tuchel coaches sessions. He's a session coach. Tuchel coached every detail of every session, apart from the defensive stuff. Apparently, he wasn't that keen on that, even though he was accused of being a bit too defensive at times. He actually didn't enjoy coaching the defensive stuff. He left that to the defensive coaches. But everything else he coached. So from midfield forward, he coached. So why didn't he do well there? So why... do Man United fans have a good reason to be a little bit apprehensive about this and think, well, is he going to be all right under Ten Hag or not?
Well, there's apprehension on any player that arrives because he's fundamentally coming into something that's unknown to him initially. His obviously saving grace is that the manager has an understanding of him before from prior. I think it was Utrecht. He was aware of him. Yeah. But also, you've got to look at it's all about how you elicit the message you want to get across, Jimmy, because you look at the players at Inter Milan that were there before Mourinho arrived and then that remained there after he left. And certain players in that Inter Milan team that were there before he arrived said they fundamentally got on better with Mourinho as the coach, even though he's had a short tenure there, because of how he delivered to me as an individual, not to the team, to me. So whatever specifically he was asking me to do, how he got me to do that, only he could do.
Was brilliant, yeah.
So, Tuchel's a wonderful coach and he's demonstrated that, but how he delivered whatever he was asking Mount to do and then Mount being receptive of what he was being asked to do are two different things, you know what I mean? So how to ask that question might have been a way where, because he knows Mount and he has a better understanding of how to get that tune out of him, but also within the system that Ten Hag wants to play compared to Tuchel's, you might see a far better version of the player than what you saw under Tuchel.
No, that's fair points. Right, we're going to swiftly move on to the next topic, which is Onana. Obviously, goalkeeper's been a big talking point for us because obviously the De Gea contract seems to be in stalemate for some reason. There's a portion of the fan base upset because they're saying that the club have disrespected De Gea by kind of turning back on a contract that they put on the table in the first place. Personally, I don't see it that way, and I can see some elements of disrespect in the way it was publicized. But I think that in terms of the contract negotiation themselves, I think if you are going to move forward as a club, you have to set boundaries, and I think this is a good demonstration of certain boundaries to say, look, we've assessed the performances. They're not meeting the expectations that we've got.
Jimmy, before we move on to Onana quickly, we never actually got no one's GA predictions, Mount or Bruno.
Oh,
so let's go quick fire.
We can do a quick fire. I don't know if GA numbers make sense to everyone. That's the only reason I don't really.
It's a guessing game, really, isn't it?
With GA, it really is a guessing game. If you guys want to predict, I'm happy for you guys to predict. If you guys
as a duo, like combined,
as a duo, yeah.
Including assists.
Yeah,
I'd say I'd go 40.
Ooh. Huh? Are you sure?
Yeah, I've gone with 5 goals for Mount and maybe similar assists, maybe 8. And I think Bruno's gonna have one of his best seasons for the simple fact that system-wise looked great. And of course, if you're adding the right pieces to the puzzle, you're going to see a more effective Bruno on that pitch. And given the state of what we saw of our front forwards last season, who couldn't finish their dinner, the chances he created were astronomical. So I don't see why he would have a drop off. So yeah, I'm going to go 40.
Between them both. I'm going to go 20 goals between them and 15 assists.
So 35. Yeah.
Sorry, you broke up for me there. Sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
Johnny?
Miss me with Jay, man. Go to next person.
Go on, Brian. Brian, go on. On you.
Ooh. Oh, man. Bruno kind of had a bit of a down year in terms of goals this year. I do think Mount will help him for sure. So, yeah, I'm gonna go 30 between the two. I think Bruno will be back to his best. I think Mount will bed in slow. I do think he'll improve Bruno.
Yeah. Okay. Fair play. Elza, what did you say? You said 40, didn't you?
No, I said 35. I said they're gonna get 20 goals.
You said 35. Okay.
Between
Ben,
them,
what's
so
yours?
12 and 8, 10 and 10, and 15 assists, whatever that will be.
I'll say at least 30 plus purely on the basis of that. For all the slander that Bruno gets, look at what his output was on his own. But then if you add somebody that's we all think is very good for the system, which then in line would help him, it should be at least.
Okay, that's fair enough. I can't. GA is my worst stat in the world. I absolutely despise talking about GA. For me, I would say 30 plus if I was guessing, just because I think some things that Mount's going to add to Bruno's game, he's going to take away some things as well. And that's the problem I've got with it, because I feel like Bruno has had creativity responsibility as a player for Manchester United for a while. And I think Mount coming in might make him a little bit more relaxed. And that's one of my fears about the combination, is that I think he might get a bit more relaxed about being the main creator in the team, which I think they should both feel like that. But I would say 30 plus is probably reasonable. But I'm talking absolute nonsense. I've got no real basis tactically for why I think that, to be honest. So it's absolute tosh, to be honest. But we're going to move on to Onana. And only because, like I said, there's been talks about the goalkeeper. It's been a big talking point. Contract talks with De Gea, blah blah blah. I've got two questions, and I'm going to start with. I'm going to go to Johnny with this one. We'll start with Johnny.
Yeah, man.
My question is, if De Gea has not signed a contract with Manchester United, but we also have not actually bidded for any keepers in any, as far as I'm aware, and if anyone's got any updates, please let me know. As far as I know, we put no bids for any goalkeepers at all.
No bids gone in just yet.
So if De Gea leaves and we don't bid for a goalkeeper, or at least we don't come to an agreement with the goalkeeper within the window, do people understand just how effed we are in that scenario? And the second question is, how do you feel about Onana and the kind of, from what I've seen, the prices I've seen so far, about 55 million tops in terms of price tag. So how do you feel about this scenario where we have no goalkeeper at all? And then the fact that we're bidding 55 million for Onana.
Like, to be even in this situation, in my opinion, it's piss poor planning. This should have been planned for, like, in January, like Christmas time. They should have been planning for this. And it looks to me like it's just been a circus show again. Ultimately, I shouldn't be surprised by it, because this is what happens under the Glazers. Like, nothing's nothing's proactive. Everything's reactive. Like, we don't forecast stuff. Like, we get to the moment, and then we think about it, and we're caught sort of, holding us, you know what I mean. So if he leaves, then we've got, what is it, Tom Eaton? And Henderson's...
That's all we've got. Tom Heaton's the only senior goalkeeper we've got who plays in the first team.
Henderson made it clear last season, like he wasn't even giving Ten Hag the opportunity to speak to. I found it a bit arrogant, like, but I kind of get it's like I don't want to be talked into. I've got my mindset where I want to go, and that's it. So he's made his mind up. So then you left with Tom Eaton. And I feel like to sort of drop that bombshell on Tom Eaton like that, like I don't think that's unfair on him, because I imagine he wasn't anticipating this. That can be quite a big burden to shoulder as a keeper. I'm sure he'd probably relish in it, but I'm sure he would have liked it to have been planned rather than happen on him. So I don't think it's a good situation. I think it's a bad look on the club. It's making it look like a Mickey Mouse outfit again. But water is wet with the Glazers, isn't it? But in terms of Onana, look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know much about Onana. I watched the Champions League final. It was a very impressive final from his performance wise. I thought he was excellent with the ball at his feet, very confident. Some would say maybe too confident. He was arguably man of the match.
A lot of people say too confident.
Yeah, but I saw what he can do with his feet. I'm not seeing much what he can do in terms of shot stopping or commanding his box or claiming crosses or coming off. Well, obviously came off his line. I can't. That one game is not a sample size to judge any player from 1 to 11. You need more than one game. I haven't watched him. That's the first time he'd come onto my radar personally. So I can't judge him off one game. I think he had an excellent performance that particular game, but I can't judge him off that. I need to see a lot more of him. So the fact that I've not heard his name before suggests that he's not really been on many people's radar. I'm just speculating there, by the way.
I think with goalkeepers, though, it's a little bit different, isn't it? Because even if they play for top teams, sometimes if it's not a league that you watch regularly, it's very rare that you will know about a goalkeeper that much. To be honest, it's just it's one of those positions.
If we do put a bid in for him, I would hope that the manager or the coaching staff, the recruitment team, he's been on their radar already. Like, I don't need to be on your radar, but just because that would be very, very Mickey Mouse if he's just on your radar now because he played well in the Champions League final. I would hope that they've got an extensive sample size of watching him, reports, reading the scout reports, what people have said about him, and then if that's the case, and you
he's
can
played for Ten Hag, Johnny.
Say again, Elzo.
He's played for Ten Hag.
Has he?
Ajax.
Ajax.
All right. Well, so the manager knows him very well then.
Yeah.
That's one of the.
I wasn't aware of that.
So
he obviously knows him very well. That completely changes the complexion of my statement. If the manager clearly knows him very well, he's played for him. So if the manager wants him, then you go get him. If the manager like that,
are you saying 55 million's too much?
I don't know because Jimmy, I haven't watched him. I don't know. And obviously, clearly one of his strengths is the ball at his feet. And coming off his line, that's a clear strength, right? But the rest of his game, I ain't seen anything. I ain't seen out, so I don't know what the value should be.
That's fine, Johnny. That's fair play. Like, you can't, if you know, because I think it's impossible to, because this is what a lot of fan base do, Johnny. They don't do what you're doing now, where they'll try and guess, and it's like, well, you can't guess if you've not watched someone. It's not.
If you haven't watched a player with a decent level of time and minutes to come to form some sort of objective opinion, how can you put a value on him?
No, that's fair enough. That's fair enough.
No comment from me.
No, that's fine. We'll move on swiftly to Elzo. What's your thoughts? Onana, first of all, when you look at him, the situation and the mess that we might end up in, worst case scenario type of mess. And also obviously the 55 million price tag. What do you think of that? Would you pay that for him? From what you've seen of him, what you've heard of him, what you know of him, give me your two answers.
The biggest part of this mess, basically, is we need to be careful, because if we don't agree nothing with him and he goes, teams might try and bully us. Then they're gonna know we're desperate. They're going to know we're desperate. So whoever we're dealing with, let's just hope we've got a good relationship with them. Because that will not look good. That will be all over the media. Everyone will know about it. And they will know Man United are desperate for a keeper.
What do you see? Do you see a Saudi deal, or do you see what are you seeing? What are you seeing him going to a proper club that's going to be in the Champions League, Europa League, or do you see him just saying, do you know what, F this, I'm going to go to Saudi and get the bag?
I wasn't even talking about a club or anything like that about him. I'm just thinking if he just says, yeah, I'm off, and he thinks I'm going to do with it later, then everyone's going to know. Everyone's going to know, and that's not good. That's not good. That's not good for business at all. Teams will take the mick. But yeah, also before we start on this, I don't like De Gea. He's not the level. He's shit now. He's not good, but he has been good for us in his time here. So people need to calm down with the disrespect for him, because I feel like he's been a good servant.
Do you think the club have disrespected? Do you think the club have disrespected De Gea?
Oh no,
in the contract negotiation.
The club have moved quite good with this. I think people will say it's disrespectful, it's harsh, but I like that. I just don't like the fans just overdoing it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
He's been a good servant to us. I can see what people were saying about the disrespect and all of that, but that's something that I actually liked. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That they know that they don't want it, and if they do want it, it's going to be for this price. Take it or leave it.
Yeah.
I like that. But Onana, yeah, I'll take
55 million. 55 million. You're saying, go on, pay it.
I will do that. I will do that. The manager wants him. I ain't seen too much of him. I've looked him up. I've seen little clips. I've seen his stuff in the Champions League. The manager wants him. Let's go. Let's do it. I know he can pass. His distribution's quite good. Let's go. Let's do it. I'm all in.
Okay.
I'm sold.
Nope, that's fine, man. So as long as I've got your answer on whether you would pay 55 million for him, so that's great. That's the main part of this. Brian, I'm going to come to you next before I go to Ben after that. So for you, Onana, look at the mess that we're in. How did we end up here? And most importantly, would you pay 55 million for Onana at this point? Because from what I've heard as well, they want cash up front. They want all the money up front, is what I've heard. I don't know how accurate that is, so please correct me if that's not the case. But yeah, what are you thinking?
Oh, Man United. It's amazing. It is amazing how we end up in positions like this. But, I mean, what are you going to do? De Gea shouldn't have been on the wages that he was on to begin with to even be in this position. And that's not De Gea's fault, because if somebody offered me that amount of money at that stage of my career, I would have said yes to. So It is what it is. You know what I mean? Like I don't blame him. I don't blame him at all. My thing is, like, I feel for the club, because the people who are in positions to make these types of decisions are not supported well or empowered to make these calls by their owners. And we don't have to get into the big deal about the Glazers. Like, the reason that we're in this position is because the people making footballing decisions can't make the decisions in its totality, because the owners, they have no insurances on if the owners will completely back what they're doing or not. So I feel for Ten Hag getting to a place where he's like, look, man, like, I don't want De Gea as my number one anymore. I'm okay if he goes on reduced wages and comes in as number two. But now he's in this position where he's like, I might have to lose this guy. I can't even offer him a reduced contract on the correct terms, right? I can't even offer him like, with the insurances that we will go into the market for a number one. So, I mean, but Onana's a great player. And I think that, like, if we're trying to move in a direction where we're going to give the manager the players that he wants, we've already done that with Mason Mount. Mason Mount was the midfield target that Ten Hag wanted, regardless of whether we agree with it, regardless of whether we think that he's the best.
They were asking, Brian, you know what? The Man United fan base were craving a tactical manager. They got one. They were craving players that can play in a system. They're getting one, but they're still complaining. What do they want? What do you want?
I mean, look, here's the thing. Like,
you want?
Everybody has their own preferences, and they're entitled to those preferences. And my preferences, I'm always going to think that my preferences are right over anyone else's preferences. And that probably includes somebody like Erik ten Hag. Like, everybody's like, well, why don't you just go after this guy? Oh, he's just 80 million. Just go buy him. Like, and it's not that simple, right? So it's not that simple or that easy. And you have no assurances of anything working that way either. So, but I mean, if the manager wants Onana, and we're trying to move in a direction where we're trying to give the managers, in particular Ten Hag, their top target, let's just go and get the player, right? Let's just go and get the player, especially if you're going to put Ten Hag in a position like this, where he might start the season and have to put Scott McTominay in goal. So, because if I was Ten Hag, to be completely honest, if I was put in a position by my employers to where I can't have a senior goalkeeper, if I lose my current senior goalkeeper and we don't buy a replacement, like, I'm walking. Are you setting me up to fail on purpose?
Yeah, 100%. I've said that as well. I've said, look, if I'm Ten Hag, these goalkeeper deals better be in some advanced level for you to be telling me that you can't come to an agreement with David De Gea, because there's no way you're expecting me to go into a season with Tom Heaton. You're having a laugh. I am walking out of the job. There's not a chance you would continue with a season with Tom Heaton as your main goalkeeper. So I completely agree with everything you're saying.
Yeah.
Price-wise, 55 million. Yes? No?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine for me. I mean, I'm not gonna moan and whine about us buying Onana for 55 when we bought Mount for 60, and that was apparently a big deal. So it is what it is. And it's not my money. It ain't coming out of my account. They could spend 4,000 million on them if they wanted. I don't care. I don't care. It's their bank account.
Brilliant. Great points, always. I'm going to go to Ben, then I'll come to Naji after that. But Ben, what are your thoughts? Onana, first of all, please address the mess that we're in, and then tell me 55 million for Onana. What are you thinking?
Well, I mean, the mess that we're in is conducive of where we are as a football club. In terms of the whole hysteria around how we've dealt with De Gea, I've got no issues how we dealt with De Gea. In reality, he is a number. It's only the emotional aspect of what you elicit to the football club that draws you to provide a player.
The nostalgic boys are going to come for you, Ben. The nostalgic boys are going to come for you.
It's one of those where, okay, you deem him in this category, and I've got nothing against De Gea, because where he's failed is that he's not developed enough strings to his bow to move with the times. You know, whereas you look at certain players that are outfield footballers who have been able to play in different eras and still sustain that level of performance because they've been able to adapt their game enough to still maintain that elite level, but merge with the times. He hasn't done that. He's got to the point where he arrived, where he mastered certain aspects that fitted in with where the Premier League was then, and then he's not kicked on with them, and then also maybe addressed areas that he might need to factor in as the game progresses forward in time. So I've got no issues with Ten Hag being ruthless with him, because I'd rather be ruthless. At the end of the day, as a professional footballer, you want to be told in a ruthless way, because you know exactly where you stand.
Yeah.
You don't want.
I've always said that. I've always said that if I was a professional footballer, I'd rather the manager said, "Look, this is where you're going wrong. You know, this is what I need you to do," and keep telling me if I'm not able to do it, because you get to a point where you know that maybe I'm not cut out for this manager because I can't meet the expectations that he has for a player of my profile.
Exactly.
And then you know that you need to move on. So I think it's better if the manager is harsh. I think that's why Mourinho was very successful at his first Chelsea stint, because he told players what he thinks.
But I've got no issues with that in that aspect, in terms of the fact that it is where it is, where his contract's now expired, and we're still sort of no further forward in the water. We're still drifting. Well, that's part and parcel of where we are as a football club. In terms of the Onana thing, Ten Hag's kind of damned if he does and he's damned if he doesn't, because look what was labelled at Fergie when he first brought De Gea to the football club. He's bringing in a young lad. He doesn't look like he's built for the Premier League. He's going to get bullied. He's far too young. You can't really be thinking about the long term with a goalkeeper because of the nature of the position, blah, 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 blah. And Ten Hag's in the same position. If he goes with Onana, the instant label will be, oh, he's just buying what he knows. Whereas if he goes with Costa, he's bought an expensive goalkeeper.
That's been the narrative already, hasn't it? It's been the narrative to say he's just going for what he knows again.
For me, if I'm in Ten Hag's shoes, if Onana meets what he deems a goalkeeper to have to do at a very, very good level, fundamentally, then I don't care who he picks. Whether that's Onana, whether that's that Feyenoord kid that we're all being linked with, whether that's Costa or whoever. If he showcases the attributes that Ten Hag wants from a goalkeeper in the modern game with the system he wants to play, get the player. I don't care if he's got a 20-year relationship with him or he's only met him in passing. If he fits what he buy him, because fundamentally, as a manager, you want as many holes filled with people that you know aren't going to leak than things where you think, you know what, he's got this amount of hysteria in the media or in football, but I don't know fundamentally if I can have that where I can count on him to fulfill what I need of him. So if that means Onana, I mean, I've always said,
yeah,
goalkeeper, centre back, central midfielder, or back in the day, central midfielder and forward. If you can fill those 5 positions or 4 positions with the players that you trust fundamentally and are at a good enough level to allow the team to grow, then that's all that matters to me. If he's got a great relationship with Onana, even brilliant. It means he can integrate me even quicker. It means he can hit the ground running far quicker. He understands the messages that are being delivered to him, which he can then get across with his teammates. Which then all he's got to do then is just work on a relationship with the players he's playing with, because he already knows what's going to be expected of him, like Martinez, like Anthony. And then it's more cogs working in harmony than cogs being placed together, but now and again they mesh. Is it 55 million pounds, 55 million euros?
55, yeah. That's what the cap I've seen is 55 million. That's what they're saying is kind of what they're hoping to get. But I think Man United are going in much lower than that.
The only problem you have with Inter is Morata's an incredibly savvy, astute individual, but he's also not stupid. So if he's prepared to let Onana leave because it keeps, say, a Barella, who he might deem as a more valuable asset because he can get a cheaper deals, then that's fine. Then you have to be savvy, but also astute with how you deal with Morata, because fundamentally we're going to have to sing to his tune initially.
Yeah.
Nope, that's fair enough. Fair point. Neji, I'm going to come to you. Onana, give me your brief comments.
I'll try and keep it brief, mate. But I've got multiple frustrations. Starts the root of this main situation is the Glazers, not because not their investments and stuff like that, but just because we don't have the funds. And over 16, 17 years now of ownership, it's got us to a stage where we're now scrimping and scraping the barrel. So it's put the manager in a tough situation of where to prioritize money. And because that's where I'm focusing, I'm of the opinion, and I always have been, and you know this, that it didn't make sense to get rid of De Gea this season. And the reason I state that, not because of his ability and talent, but because I see other areas of our of the team last season that needed it more. With De Gea's mistakes, we still managed to have a solid defense. And that tells me that even when he makes mistakes, even when he messes up, I know our team can still concede less, or we can still get ourselves out of the crapper. Even then, when he's made mistakes, and by the way, we need better than that. And I'm just, if anyone's watching, I do believe he needs to go. But I'm looking at priorities based on the situation our club is in and financially. Yeah. If we can maintain a defense like that, even with a De Gea in, but we can't contribute goals. We can create so many chances, but we can't score more than 2 goals a game. To me, I don't think this isn't something to overthink just because of a kicking situation. I think the problem is bigger than being able to kick. Now, let's look at the positives for me. Being able to kick out the back means we can control games more, understood. No problem. Of course, we all want that. Ten Hag would want that. But what's the point in creating extra 5-6 chances a game if your strikers aren't clinical, your forwards aren't clinical?
Great point.
And to me, that's why it makes no sense. Now, this is why I say we need De Gea.
Yeah.
I could go another season with De Gea, given the fact we go and get a striker first. I'd much prefer United went and pumped that 55 million and sold a player, whatever, to go get an 80, 90 million pound striker. Because they're out there. Yeah. And then if we've got some change at the end, then you go and address the keeper situation if you're able to. Now, I've been fair to De Gea. And by the way, my preference is that he needs to leave. It's quite obvious, all right? But I'm talking about putting it into perspective of where our team is struggling the most, given the financial situation we are in as a team. It does not make sense to me, personally, that you go and get rid of De Gea, replace him, and take out a massive part of your budget that you don't have already because we haven't got new owners. And then there's no guarantees at that time that when we do get new owners, we're going to have enough money to then go and buy a certain striker that we want. Bayern Munich are now sniffing around Kane. Osherman's way priced out. So to me, it makes no sense. You're now looking at it as pretty much Hojland, 40 million, as being your main striker. He should be our second striker. And now look at the knock-on effect. All those United fans are going to expect goals from this guy. The guy's only scored, 10 goals in his league? Yeah. So the expectation is going to be put on this striker, or because you've got a new goalkeeper that can kick. And this is why I don't get emotional with certain things. I don't entertain emotional debates. Because you can let your emotions override situations, and then you miss logics.
Yeah.
It makes more sense. And again, I put my club first, not the player. By the way, I want De Gea out. It makes sense to me, right? So it's not about my preference. Objectively, my club is struggling. And we're struggling financially. So why would I, knowing that De Gea, even with his mistakes, has one, kept us in games, two, given us plenty of chances to either hold on to 3 points or go and get a winners in that team. Knowing that, no, he's not great at his crosses. No, he's not a great command in his box, but he has shown his ability to be able to do that better than he has previous seasons. And his kicking is woeful, especially in the last part. But at the same time, has also shown his ability to kick out the back short and long. So, yes, he's not world class in those areas, but can we make do with him in order to go and get a striker, which, let's be honest, similar to the KDB situation I was saying earlier, no one got onto KDB for the bounce of balls that were given away. Why? Because they were winning games and the system was working.
Yeah,
if we went and got a high-profile striker and we win a game 4-2, De Gea makes 2 mistakes to concede, people still going, oh, De Gea's crap. But then most of the headlines will be, look at Kane, he scored a hat-trick. You're not caring because you got the 3 points. And this is the difference for me. So on Onana, I've got no issue having Onana. It makes sense. He's the type of keeper that I would bring in anyway. Personally, I wanted Mangala, would be happy with Acosta, and I'm cool with Onana. We've seen his ability on the ball. So let's stick with the positives with Onana. If Onana comes out and starts spraying balls, doing this thing, breaking lines, my situation that I'm looking at is, can we rely on Rashford again and other strikers or forwards to go and put the ball in the net? And it's a massive, massive ask for a bunch of forwards that don't really seem to be hitting the net as much as they should.
Facts.
So it's massive. And that's not just 1 player, 2 players. That's 3 or 4 players in the forward line. So if you get Onana in, the only resolution I can see that will make me feel more comfortable is that we're going to have clinical strikers. Rashford's going to be on his A game. Anthony's going to be on his A. He's going to actually finish his chances. When we're in front to go, we're going to make certain decisions. We're going to be smashing goals. Because there's no point to me creating, like I said, 4 or 5 extra chances with a goalkeeper and not actually smashing the ball in the net. Because what that then comes down to, Jimmy, is let's say we create these chances. And again, I'm going off the season as a whole, not just pit points, because there's going to be great seasons where we create and bag. There's going to be games where we don't bag, but we need 1. So I get that, right? I'm talking in general.
Yeah.
Let's put the negatives to the situation. So even though Onana's creating more chances forwards because we're breaking lines with passes and etc., if we're not bagging our goals and we start getting under pressure, how is he with his shot stopping? Because get rid of De Gea, no problem. But how are you going to then replace De Gea's qualities? Not like he's got no qualities. You're a child if you think he's got no qualities or because you're getting emotional over kicking. I'll be honest, I'll keep it 100 with you.
Yeah.
So how are you going to then replace those qualities that has allowed us to keep us in games where strikers haven't been able to put the ball in there? And this is where my focus is. And again, this comes down to the ownership, and this is why we're in this situation. I don't think it's wise to get rid of De Gea for that reason. Not because of his talent, but because we could still do with him in goal if it means that we go and get forwards. And then you phase him out with a 30-40 million goalkeeper. And then
I get your point, Najee, but you get the problem you have now is you've got a very good portion of the fan base that genuinely believe that De Gea is hurting the way that we build play. And I'm not saying and if you talk to the more reasonable portion of that fan base that feel De Gea is a problem, the more reasonable portion of that fan base will give you substance to that to say the way that De Gea is prepared to start building up play from the back. It's not good enough. It's not just. I agree. It's not good enough in so many different ways. So it's not good enough because he's not quick enough in how he starts to play. So he's not good enough because he's not creative enough in doing it. So what do you say to that fan base? What do you say to those people?
I mean, it's quite self-explanatory. I look at the first thing I said. I look at the whole season. What was the biggest issue? Our defense or our attack? You don't have to overcomplicate things that aren't complicated. If De Gea was making us lose so many games because of these mistakes, yes, he's put us under pressure. Yes, he's made risky situations happen. but have we still managed to get those 3 points or bad goals? Just about. So that tells me enough that it's not that detrimental. Doesn't mean it's not detrimental. It's not that detrimental in comparison to not being able to bag goals.
Problems. Yeah.
Now, if we had new owners, I won't be having this conversation. I'd be saying, go get a new goalkeeper. Go get your 2 strikers. But that's not our situation. I'm just trying to live in the reality world. So forget your preference of whether he's good enough or not. Yeah. He's not good enough overall. I agree. That's why I want him out. But also, our forwards aren't good enough to go and put the ball in the net. Has De Gea saved our strikers more than our strikers have saved De Gea this season? I'll give it on the nudge and say De Gea's put us in more of a situation to win games than our strikers. I say De Gea's give our strikers more of an opportunity this season than our forwards being able to put the ball in the net.
You could probably statistically prove that as well. You could probably statistically prove that. Yeah,
so that to me, I'm looking at it like with De Gea's, I'm not ignoring his mistakes. With his mistakes, with his lack of competency in certain times, and his kicking, we've still been able to have a defensive record the same way we have, which tells me one of 2 things. He's been able to do something to add towards those stats, or our defense, even when we have been making mistakes from a goalkeeper's perspective, our defense has been able to support him and back him. That's their job. Yeah. So whilst he's limping around, whilst De Gea is on his crutch, we can still give him a crutch for next season if it means we go get a striker. Because I'm looking at what's a priority for this team, given last season. And I genuinely believe we need a striker. Now, if you're now going to give me 40 million for Hojland coming in, I can't sit here and say, Hojland's going to bag goals, because the expectations going to be put on him to go and get them goals. And if we don't get them goals, then Onana, as well as his kicking, I expect the same level of energy for De Gea to go. And again, the expectations are right, by the way. So it's not a case of you give that energy, so you must do it the opposite way in a negative sense. You are right to put the expectations on De Gea, but you are also right to put the expectation on Onana to keep that ball out the net.
Everyone needs to take the same responsibility.
If they do not come through, then you're going to need your keeper to keep that ball out the net. And you will not be, I promise you, you will not be talking about 5-yard passes. You won't see compilations if we start losing games because the keeper couldn't make a save or couldn't show a moment of brilliance beyond kicking. And this is why I wasn't too focused on the kicking. I acknowledge it. I appreciate it. It's a strong reason why we need to move forward. But the bigger picture for me, Jimmy, is that I don't think our priority should be on the keeper. And the situation we're in now, it's frustrating because De Gea's no longer signing this contract because it's just some sloppy business.
And we could end up in a very bad situation.
And then it's I believe Onana will come. I've got no issue with that.
I think that deal could be done. I think when any report I'm looking at looks like there isn't too many things that could stop that deal from coming in. So
it's going to happen.
All those points, great points.
When?
Great points.
Yeah, it's a matter of when, mate.
I'm gonna, just because Naji's touched on strikers scoring goals, blah 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 blah. I was gonna go to Elza, but he's left the room briefly. So Brian, I'm gonna come to you. Hojland.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a striker that we've been linked with. I'm sure after we've been linked with him, a lot of people have gone back and started looking at his comps and whatever else you can find on the internet, on YouTube, and all the rest of it. I've watched him a few times now. I've gone back and watched a couple of games. I think I've probably watched 4 or 5 games where he's played. It's important to say he doesn't always start, by the way. I think a lot of people don't know that. So he's not always a starter for Atlanta. So, but when I've looked at his game, it's not far-fetched to say that he's got elements of Haaland's game in how I'm not going to go into that conversation. I think that's a whole conversation. But he has elements of the hunger and desire that Haaland has in terms of he always wants to get to the ball before the next player. Always, whether that's his player or the opposition player. He's very, very forceful in how he gets himself into attacking positions. And I love that about strikers. I think for me, that's why Wayne Rooney is my favorite player of all time, because Wayne Rooney could force himself into situations. I see elements of that in terms of how Hojland forces himself into attacking situations. So tell me, I'm being told that Atlanta might accept about 50 million for this player. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I was told they'll only accept about 65 million. So that figure has gone down drastically. I don't know why it's gone down. But in your opinion, I don't know what you've seen of him and what you've heard of him. should we be putting this as top 3 priority of players that we need to buy for the club at the moment? That striker, that kind of main striker for you, Brian?
So you're asking, like, should we be putting that level of money on a striker right now?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. We desperately need.
Considering what we've been told our budget might be, considering what we've been told our limitations might be in that respect, should we be looking to invest 55 million in a striker who's really on paper, and mind you, I'm a big fan of him, but I always play devil's advocate, for a striker who really has only had one good season that we are really aware of?
Yeah. Hojland's, in my mind, Hojland's price tag is the way that it is purely for the potential of the player. And so, in a way, you can almost disregard that. This is where Nagy, I think, made an excellent point just a minute ago, because, man, we don't want to bring this kid in and crush him because he's in a setup at Atalanta to come in when necessary and just don't lose us the game as a young striker, right? Back goals when you can, help create chances when you can. Just don't.
Not much pressure on the badge whatsoever.
But the way that things are in the Premier League, especially, is that, man, if we pay 55 million for you, if we pay 55, 60 million for you, or 50 million for you, and you come in and we don't buy any other striker around you, people are going to they're going to fill the gaps that Manchester United are leaving open and saying, well, Manchester United must think that this 20-year-old kid is good enough to be their number 9. And if he does anything less than what number 9s he will just magically be compared to for Manchester United have done in the past, he's going to get killed. He's going to absolutely get killed. And with that being said, I do think Hojland has bags of potential. I think that under a coach like Ten Hag, he could turn him into any player that he wants him to be. But this link would have made way more sense if the stuff with De Gea wouldn't have taken place, right? But what I'm thinking right now is that I genuinely believe that we're in the position that we are in right now because I genuinely think that goalkeeper. And I could be. This is just my thinking here. I think goalkeeper has been made a higher priority than striker right now. I think that something shifted and changed, and now the goalkeeping position has been moved up the pecking order, whereas previously.
Do you think that's because of the Do you think that's because of the De Gea contract negotiations going completely wrong? I don't think, obviously, we didn't expect this to be a problem. Do you think that's contributed to the fact that now, because for me, a goalkeeper was 4th, 5th priority to replace. All of a sudden, I think the fan base can agree to say, look, I think now it's top of the list. Do you think that's contributed to it?
Yeah, 100%. I think that now goalkeeper has been. I think with the contract negotiations. Well, the crazy thing is, I mean, there was a deal on the table. De Gea was cool with it, but then I think Ten Hag doesn't want him. I just think Ten Hag doesn't want De Gea, and so I think now that things have been shifted to where it's like he needs a goalkeeper now, because before it was like Hojland might come in because how things have changed. It was like, oh, we were having to look at Kane. We were having to look at Kane and Hojland.
I think that ship has sailed now.
No. Yeah, and what I'm purely saying it just on how things have shifted in the market. At one point, it was like we were looking at Kane and Hojland. So that then is like Kane's the target, Hojland secondary, like plan B. And then we were gonna keep De Gea. He was signing a new deal. And now it's De Gea's leaving potentially. His contract's up. We need a new goalkeeper. Now we're looking at Onana. and Hojland's still on the table, right? So
what a mess.
It's a complete mess. I'm kind of getting away from what the target is. I think that Manchester United should sign Hojland regardless.
I agree.
I think they should sign Hojland regardless. But Najee's right. Like I worry about our ability to score goals. And look, I would love for Hojland to come in and just rip the Premier League apart. I would love that. But the reality is that's less likely of happening if he comes in.
So in your opinion, so just to find one on Hojland from you, Brian, are you saying would you consider because at the moment I'm hearing 55, 60 million possibly. Are you saying this kid who's had one good season at Atalanta in the Italian league where he doesn't start every game, but when he's played really, really well, are we saying we want to pay 60 million? Is this not euros? This is pounds, 60 million pounds for this kid who we don't really know this kid at all. Are you prepared to pay 60 million just because we need a striker?
Yeah, I feel like right now, because of the De Gea situation, I think that signing Onana is more important. I personally think that you can wait on Hojland. If he's your target, you can wait on him and possibly bring in someone else. That could be. Yeah. We're literally having to just be super frugal with our funds unnecessarily, and then as a result of vetoing and different negotiation issues, we're causing problems. Yeah, we're just adding more layers for us to be that we have to work around. So if Hojland is more expensive than Onana and we're losing our number one goalkeeper, you have to spend that money on Onana just out of necessity, in my opinion. But I think we can wait on Hojland. I think we can wait on him. He's probably not going anywhere. Unless he's probably not going anywhere.
Well, so but then the problem is that there's two things about that. We're Manchester United, so what happens is when a player's been decent one season, and then all of a sudden, if we're linked to him in that season, then the following season everyone gets linked to him. So that Manchester United tax comes in. We end up paying stupid prices for players that probably we would have paid a lot less if we had just approached him a little bit earlier. This has been the problem that we've had with the recruitment. So for me, my fear is always that Manchester United are going to leave it just a little bit too late, that we pay the extra 20 million. We could have paid 20 million less the season before. So that's always been my fear. But I'm going to quickly move on to Elzo. Just if you can give me some quick points on Hojland. I don't know if you've watched him, if you've seen anything about Hojland, and just kind of maybe seen some comps that have made you think, oh, actually, maybe we could pay a little bit of money for this kid. What do you think of Hojland? Are you accepting 50? Are you going in for 50, 55 million? Does that sound reasonable?
Nah, not for me. I ain't seen enough. He looks all right. He don't look the best. When I've seen his stats as well. His stats are not great. His numbers are not that great. But he is young and he is what the coach wants. So I'm a bit, because I don't want to fully write off if that's what the coach wants. But
I think he might be another. I might not be correct on this. So Danny, please correct me if I'm wrong about this. But I think I've read that he is another player where they're asking for money up front, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a deal that we're going to have to settle at the deal rather than add-ons and all the rest of that. So if that's the case, for me personally, I don't know. I don't see that being worth that much, really. So yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you on that.
Yeah, I'm just not that sold. I'm not wowed by it, really. He's a young player. He looks promising, but yeah, I'm not that.
It's one season, innit? It's one good season is not a lot, really. It's not a lot, for a player who hasn't started every game either. It's not like he's played all season. He started. I mean, there was games when he came on 76, 77 minutes. So it's not for that season anyway. I don't think he's a player that the manager was looking at as the player to kind of be the main focal point of their attack or anything like that, or anything close to that, really. So it's difficult for me to make the assessment, but when I look at it, I think it's going a little bit too far.
Yeah, we could be saying we could be sitting there saying all this now, where we could probably get him for 40, 45, maybe 50. But in 2-3 years, they might be asking for 100, and it could end up one of them players
get sticky, man.
Why didn't we get him then? We was linked with him then. We should have got him then. Do you know what I mean? But
similar to Ahmad House, where we had Ahmad for 5 million, we could have him for 5 million. We didn't pay the boat. Now he's costing 100 mil. Like, not Ahmad, sorry. What I'm saying. Thank you. Yeah, appreciate that, Caicedo. I had Atalanta kit in my head for some reason. Caicedo, 5 mil, and now we're looking at 80 to 100.
Yeah, it's just one of them ones. But if I'm being honest, I'm a bit 50-50 because I'm not fully sold. Maybe because I haven't seen enough. But on the other hand, the coach really, he must really like him and must have faith in him. So, yeah, who knows?
So I'm gonna move on swiftly to Ben because I know Ben likes midfielders. So so next topic is the player that we've been linked with. I don't know how much people know about this guy, Amrabat. I've seen clips of him recently over the last few months. He's a player that's been on my radar for a little bit. I've only ever watched one full match of him, and it was an international match. So I haven't actually watched a full match of him, but I know he's got Ten Hag links. Ben, what do you know of Amrabat? What do you think of him? How do you feel about the link?
I mean, I'd heard of him pre-World Cup, but obviously he came to prominence with his displays for Morocco, along with the young lad who went to he got sold and went in France. I mean, he's got very good attributes defensively on the ball. He's very capable.
Decent, really decent. Yeah.
He had a tremendous engine for Morocco with how many games he played, and obviously how often their games went further than 90 minutes. I mean, what's the sort of fee they're quoting? Does it say 30 million in your thing?
It says it's roughly about 30 to 25, 30 million, but it sounds like with add-ons, but it's the Man United tax. I think we could be looking at 35 million.
How old is he, Jimmy?
26.
Okay, interesting.
I mean, as a player,
he's honestly, if you go to, there's I'll send you guys, I'll DM you some enhanced. This guy does enhanced comps, and they're really good comps. It's not just kind of looking at the best parts of the player. He breaks it down quite well. I'll send you the link. But when you watch him, he works hard. He can pass the ball. He can tackle. He's also, if you look at these passes that he's playing now, a lot of these passes are quite long distance passes. He can play a ground pass. He can play an area pass. He's a player that I think is not a bad consideration. My only worry when we're linked to other midfielders is we know that Mason Mount is coming to Manchester United. So really, technically, should we even be talking about another midfielder with limited funds at all at the moment? We haven't got the facilities to be talking about another midfielder, have we? Really?
We do need it, so I'm not going to cry about it. But I do get what you're saying.
Yeah,
it seems like one of those where.
Well, wait. Let Elza land this.
Sorry,
I'll go to Naji. I'll go to Naji and I'll go to Brian.
We got limited funds, but on the other hand, we do need more than just Mount in midfield coming in. Let's be honest. Do you know what I mean? We've got Sabitzer gone back off.
I mean, Casemiro's still in the team, so don't forget that.
Fred maybe going. And
no one's taking my Fred.
And so we
I ain't letting Fred go. If I have to time to a poll at Manchester United, Carrington is not going.
So Jimmy has a point. We've got limited funds, so maybe we need to spend it elsewhere. But because we actually do need more than just Mount, it's not nothing to go too crazy about if it does happen. So that's my take.
Can I quickly?
Yeah. Go on, Ben. Finish your point, and we'll go to Naji to respond to you after that.
But judging him individually, objectively, he has far better fundamentals in terms of all round than what I saw from Eriksen, purely because of where Eriksen is in his career and obviously what he's been through. Amrabat's very good on the football. He's got a very good head on his shoulders. You can see the picture. He's very good with his passes. He's very productive on the football. He's defensively aware. He's got a fantastic engine. He can get up and about the pitch very, very well, which would be better than Eriksen. So then if you are bringing him in for that nominal fee, it then means you can mitigate far more how much games Eriksen plays. You can then use him far more sparingly, which means you get the best version of Eriksen more often than the Eriksen, and then he becomes like a yo-yo because you're playing him, you're flogging him so much.
I don't think we should be so sure that it's Eriksen. He might be there to share the load with Cass.
No, but I'm saying if you are gonna fundamentally go a Casemiro and an Amrabat because of what Amrabat offers you on the ball and off the ball with his engine and his athleticism, it would then allow you to mitigate the opportunities of how much you play Eriksen. I mean, I like him. I mean, is it just a name that's been thrown out there?
But he likes playing more advanced. He likes playing further forward. I think from what from everything I've watched, it looks like he enjoys playing much further forward. You know, I think he likes being in that.
Morocco, he played with Wanwi, who was obviously
he did,
far more expansive, more of an engine on him, and he was also learning the game more. So Amrabat was that defensive rock because he was more astute, more mature, could see more of the picture, and he was that stabilisation to allow Onwe to then progress forward more with the football.
He can box to box as well, can't he? He can box to box, which is good.
It's better to have options than wish you did it, but then wish you didn't have one. So
yeah, no, fair point. Neji, go on.
Yeah, sorry about that, Els. Yeah, so I just think that I mean, again, I'm going to go if the rumours are true. Do I like the player? Yes, of course. I think the word that strikes me is tenacity, and that is on and off the ball for me, and that speaks to a foundation of a mindset. And I know you guys know me long enough to know that I'm all about the psyche more than anything. That's just my preference of what I think is most important: foundations, morals, your principles, the way you play the game. And regardless of talent, like again, he's going to have, if he came to United, a lot of potential to just not only just come off the bench, but also be a starter, and could hold down a midfield role for the next 2 years. And I think, I know I wasn't really feeling Eriksen's replacement, but I do believe Eriksen gets bypassed too easy. And even if Casemiro had to have a rest and stuff, you're looking at that midfield, and I'm thinking, given what I said earlier, boys, on the defensive side of things, we were solid defensively, even with a dodgy keeper, right? Or in some people's minds, dodgy keeper. So in midfield, we got bypassed a lot. If we can control games more, then I think the pressure is going to be put more so on our forwards doing their job. And with Benny McCarthy as a coach, I feel like this is, if we've got a foundation for our strikers we may need an extra 3-4 chances a game to put one in the net. Okay, so be it. I'm scared of it because we ain't got the forwards to do it, and I don't believe they will. But again, that's just a random guess for me. But if you've got a strong midfield with this player coming in, you've got Mount, you look at the attributes that they bring, with that tenacity in the shape, and you've still got a solid defense, regardless of keeper that is in goal. Again, the forwards, that's when you look at the forwards and go, okay, just bag the goals. And if you've got that Amrabat in there, you're going to clearly have more of the ball. You're going to control the games a lot more. And if you control games, you can create more chances. Again, it comes back down to what I was saying earlier. Can our forwards put the ball in the back of the net? And for the whole season, we can't be relying on one Rashford. And even he has dips of form in and out when it comes to GA. So, again, the striker situation is the biggest thing. But if you're going to look at that midfield and say we've got Mount, you go get Amrabat, and you got Bruno, of course, and you got Casemiro. You've got a strong selection of 4 at least that you can rotate with and still get the same quality and consistency is the main thing in that team, along with a strong enough defense. And again, we all know Luke Shaw can play centre back if needs be. Again, played great there. Malassi hasn't been amazing, however, can still hold down a foundation enough for us to go and control games. And if that's what Ten Hag wants to do, then maybe once a striker puts the ball in the net, maybe for the season that or forward, puts the ball in the net, maybe the strikers and the forwards get a little bit more confident as the season goes on because they're getting more chances, they trust themselves a little bit more, and they know more are going to come. Maybe that's what happens, and that's just based off that signing coming in. So I'm with Owls. I don't see an issue adding to the midfield personally, but again, as it stands, my own preference is I need them strikers in and I need them in because I don't trust our forward line more than anything. So on that side, it doesn't make sense for us to go and get this guy after we just got Mount. So just giving you both sides of the argument there, but I wouldn't be opposed to him coming in.
Yeah. Right. So. Go on, Johnny. I was just going to say that because I'm just conscious of time and obviously people.
I won't be long. I feel like if according to reports, the club De Gea signed that De Gea was willing to sign the contract. Sign the contract, but the club didn't sign on that. They signed their part, and apparently, according to report, they wanted it reduced even further. So, for this, the club have created their own problem here. The club have created this problem.
They haven't. This happens in every contract negotiations go like this. It happens.
But what I'm saying, if you agree on a negotiation and then the player signs and then you don't later on and you find that's so unprofessional. Johnny, in any industry you go to, yesterday's price is not today's price. It's just how it is. If two parties agree and like the player signs, you expect the club to be professional and hold their end of bargain, right? So
I'm sorry, Johnny and Jimmy, but I'm so sorry, but I've got to be strong on this one. Like, it's sloppy business. If you're prepared, if you've already negotiated and done things, that means you've got all your finances in check, all your ideologies in check. The managers are okay. You're presenting something to a player. This is not no small end business or small little scheme. This is Manchester United, and you're running it like you should be running it with some level of decency and class. If you've prepared to give a man paper off your word, based on what's been agreed, you should be ready to sign that. I don't know if you could find me any situations. I don't know any situations that are very similar to that, where you've agreed on stuff, you've put it down on paper, he's signing, and then you pull it away. Don't say it's right or wrong because you've probably got something wrong. But then if you've got something wrong, you shouldn't be adding a piece of paper in front of a man's face anyway. So I'm with Johnny on that.
Yeah, just to
that's fine, and I agree with that. I think it's a case of agree to disagree sort of thing. But Johnny, go on, close, man.
Just to add further to that, the club have now left the manager in a fucking predicament because he's got no goalkeeper. So where the manager, I imagine, because he's very astute, very acute, fucking meticulous manager. Excuse my language. He's very meticulous, right? So where he's probably planned to maybe put funds towards another midfielder or another striker, right? He's now like, well, fuck's sake, what am I going to do now? So I didn't mean to swear. What am I going to do now? Because now he's got a keeper. And like, you can't rely on, with all due respect to Tom Eaton, and I mean this respectfully, you can't rely on him to be our number one next season, right? Not just that, it's the manager's second season. So the expectation within the fan base, is going to rise because it's his second season now. So people are going to expect more, right? Then we've got we've got a lack of goals up front. We need a killer up front. We've got no killers, right? So at this point, I'm sympathetic towards the manager because he's in a situation that he didn't ask for and probably didn't plan for.
No, so am I. Definitely. So am I. I'm very sympathetic.
But the bottom line is, Jimmy, we need Qatar to take over this football club. We need more money. We just need more money. Like
that's the main thing.
Like we're trying to buy Ferrari with frigging Vauxhall money. Like we don't have the money to buy Ferraris. Do you get what I'm saying?
That's exactly it.
I feel sorry.
I agree with that, Johnny. Totally agree with that. I'm just conscious of time, so we're going to close off with just a quick topic on there seems to be there's other topics that I wanted to get to, but we won't have time to get into them. But I think this might be a general kind of umbrella topic to close on. Why as a fan base do we not trust Ten Hag? Why don't we trust him? Why don't we trust him? And let me clarify that.
Yeah.
We wanted a tactical manager, so we got Ten Hag in. That's why he came in, because he's a master tactician. We know that he focuses on player profiles. We know that he has a very specific way of wanting to play football. And the most important thing is, we know that he will always gravitate to the players that are as close to that profile as possible, rather than just getting the player that's on the market. Then Ten Hag has gone and picked players. Casemiro's coming in. We slated him for it. We said he's too old. He's not good enough. He's all this. When he's talking about bringing Mason Mount in, which I know is a Ten Hag selection. We're saying Well, he's not good enough because he's not he's not a diamond name. He's not a shiny name. He's not a bling name. What is it that we want? We've wanted this manager. This manager's come in. He's given us exactly what he brings as a manager because that's what we wanted. And then people are not happy with the selections that he's making, the decisions he's making on players that he wants to bring in. Why is that? How does this happen like this?
The biggest thing I've seen on my personal timeline, Jimmy, and I'm seeing it literally every single day, the number one thing that I'm seeing with the gripe from fans is talent ID. I've seen it every day. Talent ID. That's all I'm seeing.
Okay.
And I feel talent ID. I mean, not everyone's sort of like bowled over with Anthony. I think it's been quite underwhelming so far, according to a lot of the fan base. The general consensus, if you will. Mason Mount again is coming off the back of 2 seasons of bad form for whatever reason he is.
Yep.
So, and again, a lot of the fan base, and again, I mean this respectfully towards Mason Mount, a lot of the fan base didn't rate him prior to. I didn't rate him before, but I still don't rate him now. So, he's got to prove me wrong. So, I feel like the talent ID, I definitely think there's some substance to it.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that's fine. That's fair point, Brian. Yeah, I'll let you go. Let's try and keep your points to about a minute or two so we can wrap up.
Sure. Yeah. I guess for me, it's my biggest thing is why people don't trust Ten Hag is I think that they're not giving enough credit to what he's having to do. I think that on the surface level, people think, well, if we just brought in an Mbappe, if we just signed a Hojland, this goes back to what Johnny's talking about with talent ID. People are like, we need superstars. And it's like, no, we need to build a squad that can withstand the rigors of an entire season, which we don't.
And then you can put the superstars on top.
Yes.
Yeah.
The luxury players add to the foundation. Like they add to the value of the house.
Build the team first.
You build the team. Ten Hag's trying to build the team, right? Looking at Mason Mount. Yeah, Mason Mount may have struggled. Like Mason Mount may have had 1 or 2 seasons of bad form, but then those same Manchester United fans who don't rate Mason Mount will give Jadon Sancho every pass in the world when Jadon Sancho had a horrible time last season when he had 2 managers. There was no stabilization. The same thing was true with Mason Mount. Mason Mount had 3 managers in 3 years. Frank Lampard twice, actually. Tuchel and then whatever his name is, he came from Brighton. His name is escaping me right now.
Potter.
Yeah. So he had 4 managers in 3 years. 2 of them were the same dude. So there's no stability. No one struggles when there's instability, and we wonder why City is dominating the way they want to treble. They have the same manager. There's stability at the club. So when there's instability, we have to take that into consideration. If Ten Hag provides stability for Mason Mount, maybe he will thrive. So what people need to do is just add some context to their opinions and then just watch stuff happen instead of pretending that just because we can buy Football Manager or FIFA every year that we know better than people who actually get paid to do the thing. It doesn't make any sense.
Does everybody on here trust the manager? Just out of curiosity, do you all trust the manager?
1000%.
Yes.
Yeah, I trust him. Do you also, Jimmy? Ben?
Yeah, I do 100%, and I think that's the problem I've got is that because I have put trust in this manager in the sense of I believe everything he's going to do is going to be for the benefit of the club from a football perspective. So everything he's doing, I don't really disagree. That's it.
Yeah, of course I do, but I think Ben wants to go quickly before he shoots off. So Ben,
Ben, go on. It's on you, bro.
Oh yeah, cheers, Aldo, mate. For me, there's 3 words: understanding, tolerance, and understanding where the game of football now is. Because people don't have the tolerance because they don't understand what Ten Hag actually wants to do, and then with that, they don't actually understand where football now is. You look at the prime example is the gene pool for footballers in the striker position. It's nowhere near the dearth of talent that it used to be. So therefore, people are trying to find gems in the ocean. You're not going to be able to pick many out. Whereas before, you were finding gems in a pond because there was far more elite level footballers that played as strikers, far more elite level footballers that played in midfield, which means then when the manager comes to talent ID, people could go, you know what, I'll buy into whatever the manager's doing because look at the talent that's out there. There are so many midfielders, there are so many wingers, there are so many centre forwards, there are so many technical defenders. There isn't. So then when a player gets identified that doesn't meet the personal viewpoint of what I want as a footballer because of what I've seen, it's then, well, he's not the player that I want to see because of what I used to see. So therefore, Matt isn't great. But then you flick that back to when Ji-Sung Park arrived. Oh no, I'll quite happily accept a Ji-Sung Park or a Javier Hernandez because there's loads of elite level midfielders still playing the game and there's still a load of elite level strikers. So I'll quite happily allow this kid to make mistakes. Let him become that gem he wants to be. Let him grow and be expansive and showcase himself on the football stage. We don't do that, but we're not prepared to allow that tolerance to merge with those two things: the manager's ideology and actually understanding that from a base level, and then the ideology of understanding where football is within the pyramid of what footballers are available. We don't allow the two to merge. So then it'll be a case. Elzo will make a point about Ten Hag, which is productive and objective, then somebody else will come in and go, yeah, but Mason Mount's a crap footballer. Okay, well, why is he a footballer? Well, because he's not the I when I watched football back in the 90s. Yeah, but he's not, because there isn't that level of footballer at the minute.
Yeah, no, that's fair points. Neji, I'm going to let you wrap up on that question. Why don't the fans trust Ten Hag? Oh, sorry, Benny.
Thanks for letting me come on, and obviously have a nice weekend, guys.
Yeah.
Cheers,
Cheers, Ben. Appreciate you,
nice to meet you, bro.
Big up, man. Appreciate you big time. Appreciate you big time. Cheers. Neji, go on. Give me your brief points on why the fan base seems to not trust Ten Hag enough.
I say this season, say last season, season before, people leave with their preference, not what's realistic and what's not outside their preference. So if you can't make an objective opinion because you're too much involved in your emotions and that, and you follow accounts and you follow Twitter and it's literally feeding into those silly narratives that feed your emotion, then you're going to start spitting out a load of rubbish and you're going to get yourself more pissed off, more frustrated, because more time you can't think for yourself and start looking at things outside of your preference. Doesn't necessarily mean your preference may be right or wrong, because you could bring a player in that's your preference and you're happy, cool. But if I think as a fan base, we've become too entitled thinking that what our preferences are should happen. Like back in the day, there used to be a balance where fans would have their preferences of football players, but no way would they start to stick on their preferences as expectations on a manager, because they realised where they were in the pecking order. You're a fan. Sir Alex Ferguson's a Ross Clark manager. So whether you like Hernandez, whether you like Gabriel Obertan, whether you like Michael Owen, whether you like Valencia, whether you like Sebastian Veron, whether you like
we used
John
to just
O'Shea,
put up with it.
Neville,
we used to just leave it. We used to just leave it. Yeah.
No one gives a shit, excuse the French. No one cares, because it's not about your preference, rude boy. It's not about your preference. And when you start leading with your preference and arguing people with your preference, of course you're going to get vexed. So if Ten Hag doesn't do something you want him to do, or any manager, you start spitting your dummy out and act like you know more than the manager. Yep. It's crazy to me,
Mental
that
madness.
before Ten Hag came, everyone was talking about Ten Hag's style. He wants this, he wants that. So when Ten Hag's again making signings that are his, but you don't like it, you say my man doesn't know ball. Wait there. How do you know more about Ten Hag's ball than Ten Hag himself? Make Ross Clark sense. 0 sense. So I just think, Jimmy, people
they
know
entitled. Apparently. They know, Neji. They know.
You know what it is, mate? I just think people are bored. They're too entitled, and social medias give people a platform bigger than their made their egos go bang to a stage where they think that what they say is bang on, rather than just go, you know what? This is my preference, but objectively, I can see this, because no one really tries to talk from the manager's perspective. And when they do, it's their interpretation of what they think Ten Hag is, rather than going, well, even though it's not my preference, that could be something to consider. People don't like to consider things that are objective outside of their preference. Therefore, you can't have certain discussions with certain people. I said to you many times, I struggle to have conversations with people because some of them aren't mature enough. I can't have mature conversation. I can't debate, because it's like you've just said, you could bring objectivity to a conversation with certain factors that back that up, right? Take De Gea, for example. I got a hell of people on Twitter who think I want De Gea in because I've seen something outside of my preference. And I've just laid it out here for you in the sense of I believe De Gea should stay for one more season, not based on his talent and ability.
No, but that's not a strange, that's not a strange opinion, because I've heard many analysts do it saying that. So that's not
but what I'm saying to you is the feedback that I get from that, well, you don't sound like you want the hair out.
Yeah.
What? I just told you my preference. I just told you my preference. So, yeah, to answer your question, listen, you just don't take fans too seriously. The fans that take themselves seriously, don't take them seriously because their ego is inflated and they think they know more than the manager, which is fine. But therefore, you should not be sitting on Twitter talking about it. You should be doing your coaching badges. You should be going into find a team, go manage a team, and put that philosophy into play. And then we can sit there going, cool. Unless you know where you sit and stand and go, yes, this is my preference, but I ain't going to start arguing my preference. I'm going to go, you know what, cool. Then, do you know what I mean? Carry on being a great fan. But as far as I'm concerned, fans are too entitled. And I feel like that's just the way socials is nowadays, man. Like, everyone has an opinion. Everyone's opinion is fact nowadays. So you just have to let them be, man. As long as I trust my manager and I trust him, even if I don't want a certain player, like I said, Mount.
But that's the point, innit? Like, for me, I don't understand why people have lost. There's a lot of people that have lost trust in the manager for some reason. They don't say it. They don't say it like that. But the things that they're saying goes directly against someone who would claim that they trust the manager. So I'm thinking, well, you know, it's either you trust the manager or you don't. So make up your mind. And it's a very, very simple conversation for me. Like, I don't think it's that complicated at all. But yeah, I've got Johnny. You've not given me your opinion on why you think fans don't trust Ten Hag. So give me your very brief points before we can conclude and shut up.
He did. He said,
did you start?
Yeah,
so you're.
So
you created all the problems. You started it, didn't you? That's fine.
The main, like I said, the main complaint I see in my timeline is talent ID, and I think another one is the away record, like the mentality. But I don't think that's something that's not going to change overnight. I think you need to get more characters in the team, and that'll strengthen our mentality as a team. But yeah, the main thing I see is talent ID, and I understand it. I do understand it to a degree, but I just want to reply to a comment. Someone said, if you trust the manager, why don't you back his signings? You don't have to agree with every decision that the manager makes. Like, you don't have to be like, you're entitled to your own opinion.
No, you don't. No,
I don't rate Mason Mount. Ultimately, if when he comes in, when he starts this season, I'm going to give Mason Mount a fair chance, like I would any player. You don't have to agree with every decision the manager makes to back the manager. Like, you can still back the manager overall in his vision, but it doesn't mean you have to agree with every decision.
Listen, I've cussed Sir Alex Ferguson out a few times, so you know it's one of those, isn't it? When you watch football, we all see it differently. Like Nate was saying, everyone's got preferences, so just don't expect it to determine what happens with the team. In it, your preferences are your preferences.
The manager made, like, every single, from the lineups to his tactics to his approach to this, like, to everything. Do you agree with everything? I'd find that a bit weird.
It's boring. It'd be boring, I think. I think it's too boring. But no, guys, I appreciate everyone on the show. Sorry, I've had to rush the last few topics just because of time. But no, I appreciate you guys. Neji, thanks for stepping in, my guy. Please come back. I've seen a few comments saying there, big up, good to see Neji in there. Elzo's already got a fan base, just in case you didn't know. He's going to start auctioning some signed shirts soon, I'm pretty sure, because his fan base is growing by the minute. On the No Agendas podcast. So we appreciate you, Elzo, as usual. Brian, appreciate you as usual, my guy. Johnny, appreciate you. I know I had to wake you up from your slumber to get you onto the show. But big up, man. I appreciate you always, guys. Big up. And Ben is gone, but I appreciate Ben coming through as well. Guys, if you're not following these guys, please, all their Twitter names are in the description. So just go and follow these guys. Top Manchester United fans. Top conversationalists, just absolute top blokes. So guys, I appreciate you guys. Big up. Thanks all the listeners. Please smash the like button before you go. Smash it now. Smash it right this minute. And thank you guys for all the comments. There's some regulars, Nonchalant, Zaza. We've got some regulars in here. TMJ always in the comments. So we appreciate you guys.
If anyone wants to donate a big chair for me as well, I need one, man. I got this little stool chair.
Donate a chair. Donate a chair to Neji. Donate a chair to Neji as well.
I'm aching, man. I'm aching, bud.
Guys, big up all the listeners. Big up everyone. No Agendas podcast, where we go against the title of the podcast from minute 1 to the last minute. Big up everyone. Good night. Thank you. Cheers.
Love, bro.